So next question is, relocating squatters and slums in economically weaker section quarters often results in the very people selling their flats and living in slums again. So can this cycle be broken? And what was the most challenging slum or rural area development project?
Um, Let me see. I think that I have somewhere that about that particular question you ask.
I think that's question number 24 and 22
Okay, okay.
by
Uh,
Amrapali and Debangana. Yeah.
24. Okay. So I think that this idea that somehow if you give the decent housing to the very poor, who used to live in a slum, and now you put them in an apartment, etc., on a redevelopment, that they are going to sell that and they are going to move back. I have seen that argument a lot. I'm not so sure how frequent is that. I have to look at data, how frequently that really happens. I think that in a way, this policy, this critique uh, tells us that do not do much for the housing for them because they are not used to living well. They are going to go back, but it's not necessarily true for everyone. Many people who move to these places, they keep the house, they keep the new houses. Yes, they might find it difficult. We used to think that because all these people in informal settlements, they are petty traders, etc., they don't want to live in a 3-story apartment building because they cannot carry their things that they sell up the flight of stairs, etc. It's strange. When I studied Dharavi, redevelopment of Dharavi, I found, and many of the people like Spark organized Dharavi, the NGO, and Spark had told the government that the people want to live on the ground floor, they want to do business, etc. Don't put this high rise. A private developer comes, builds a high rise, and as a result of the high rise, because he made enough money, he started giving people houses at a much lower price. And when he asked people to sign up for which floor they want their apartment, most people signed up for the upper floors. And here is Park telling us, oh, poor people, they have to be on the ground floor. And when you ask these people why you are choosing third floor, they said because it's safer, it's less polluted, there are less mosquitoes, right? So I think we often make decisions about how poor people think without really knowing how they think. We have assumptions about how they think, but you need to go and study. When does somebody actually get a house, they'll make money and then sell off and go back. But let me end with this. When you ask a middle class person, if you ask a middle class person, particularly in the US, let's say, uh, you buy a house, the area prices go up a little bit because of gentrification, more services. Many people flip what they call flip the house. They make a windfall price, a profit, selling the house and moving somewhere else. If middle class people are allowed to do that with their property, why shouldn't the poor be allowed? There is no reason. I mean, to tell them that no, I'll give you a market option, but you cannot cash it in. Right? So I think we need to be much more realistic of how they think, and really there is so much more work have to be done on the constraints, under the constraints they face. How do they think? We think we know as elite, we don't really know the kind of calculations they make on their mind, yeah. Okay.
Amrapali Dibangana, if you would like to, if you beg to differ or you want to carry this conversation or this argument a little further, feel free to do so.
Yeah.
Um, so my question is that in few areas, especially near my house, I've seen that the squatter people they have had proper constructed houses for them, and they sold them, and they again started living in the squatters in the most pathetic conditions again. So my question is, what do we do to stop that? As in, it not only just degrades the environment but also their health. So what do we do for that? I mean, they can sell and move on, I understand, but
Yeah.
there has to be some sort of a solution for it so that they can have a better living, probably.
if they are making a choice by themselves of not staying in a place and using that money for something else, it's their choice. Don't try to meddle too much into how people make decisions. And like we don't like somebody else telling me, be go sell, don't sell your house, don't sell your car. I don't listen. Why should I listen? It's my property, right? So the question is, if somebody is doing that, they're telling you by that decision that they don't prefer housing is of less priority to them than the money they're making from it for maybe something else. And something else is so important in the lives of the poor because their lives are so unpredictable, so unpredictable. So to getting income, like let's say they build well, they rent out that place and they move to something of lower quality. If the rents from that new place is adding to their income, that's good. Why should you reduce the income of somebody who is poor, right? So I feel like it's very important not to put our preferences on the preference of the poor. Their lives are very, very unpredictable, and they need to make different types of money for different contingencies. One health problem, and a family can be wiped out. So if a family one person has a breadwinner and he's sick or he dies from something, and they have a house that they're renting, wouldn't you prefer that they have that money at least coming from the rent? Yes, of course. So be careful about deciding on the preference of the poor. There is we think we understand, but we don't. And again, I'm going back to this book that Abhijit and Esther wrote on it's called Poor Economics.
Right. If we look at the people, like obviously what you said made a lot of sense, but like this can become a vicious cycle, right? Some people are taking advantage of that. Like some people obviously need the money. When there will always be a certain percentage of people who are taking advantage of this whole system
Yes.
and probably selling it off. And they probably have like they are going and settling down in slums which are closer to their jobs. That is
Mhm.
usually why slums are created.
Mhm.
Right. So, okay, they are getting a government housing, they're selling it off and going back to their slums with the money in their pocket. So, isn't there any policy loophole? Like you specialize in policies. So, you have also worked in many continents, as I have read in your bio. So, like, is there any loophole that India can also implement, which can
Yeah.
prevent this vicious cycle?
Yeah. Well, one policy that India is trying now in Orissa, there's a new project of what they call community land trust. Land trust, land trust. The word trust, which is quite common in India. Remember, we used to have a port trust authority. Uh, Trust. When you take a property as a trust, it means the property is not just for sale, right? The property has to be used in a certain way. Its use value is more important than its exchange value. And so they are struggling to create housing for the poor in which the poor will not have the ownership to the land. So you cannot really, if you get a house that way in a community land trust, the community will have a say before you can sell. The group of people, they will have a say. So in a way, it's a checking on their behavior from inside, right? So look at the literature on community land trust, different ways in which land is being given, but not as the old style of property where you can buy and sell anytime. Some restrictions on selling, as long as you use the property. The property has been given to you for use, not for making money. But again, I have to say, we can start doing that. But remember that the more you put these regulations, the more you open up room for bribery.